Good morning, everybody. Coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus, downtown Cyprus on this Monday morning. A little bit cloudy. You can hear the motorbike buzzing along here in the downtown of the city, but it's pretty much empty except for that motorbike and maybe a few passing cars every now and then. It's a little bit cloudy. It might rain today, but all in all, it's a Monday morning, and I thought we would get to some news. The big story that we have to talk about, which was going on Sunday, has to do with Azovstal in Mariupol, this massive steel factory. You know, people say it's a city within a city. That's how big the steel factory is. 8 levels down. It has all kinds of underground passages and caverns. And you have 2,000, plus or minus 2,000, Ukraine military, foreign fighters. The Russians call them foreign mercenaries. Some people may actually say they're NATO commanders or NATO soldiers as well, mixed up in there. You have 2,000 soldiers who are surrounded and stuck in this Azovstal steel factory. And yesterday, on Sunday, the Russians gave an ultimatum to these trapped, encircled soldiers. They said, from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Moscow time, you have the ability to surrender. You can come out, lay down your weapons, and your lives will be spared. And that included all of the mercenaries. The Russians said it included the mercenaries because that's what they're branding them, the foreign mercenaries as well. And 1 p.m. Moscow time came and it went, and there was no surrender. The Russian Ministry of Defense, shortly after 1 o'clock, like 1:30, 2 o'clock, they issued a statement saying that from their intercepted communications that they have a hold of, the Kiev regime sent an order out to the soldiers in this factory that should they surrender, they would be shot on sight. In other words, the order was, you will not surrender. If you surrender, you will be killed. And now we're kind of waiting and seeing what the Russians are going to do, how they're going to deal with this steel factory. I guess more to the point is, how are they going to destroy this steel factory and all the soldiers in it? Obviously, this order did not come from Zelensky. Anyone who believes that Zelensky gave this order, well, I have a bridge to sell you, as Alexander always says. But I mean, I put a video of Zelensky on the video I did yesterday where he was high on something and he was in cuckoo land. I mean, Zelensky he has become a character in a movie or a play. He has actually become the character. He's no more. He's reading scripts and I think he's kind of losing his mind day by day. That's how it looks to me. But anyway, the order came from obviously must have come from outside, most likely NATO. And NATO said, you will not surrender, because NATO understands that this type of a surrender, 2,000 plus military personnel, including from what we're getting from the Russian Ministry of Defense and from the Russian side of things, and I think this is very credible, we're getting 400 in this 2,000, 400 foreign fighters as well are mixed in. So this type of surrender would not only be a massive embarrassment for NATO, it would jeopardize. I think it would really jeopardize the plan to continue to escalate the war in Ukraine, because something like this would be very difficult to hide from other Ukraine military units in other parts of the country that are fighting, specifically in the Donbass and in the east. It would be very difficult to hide a surrender of 2,000 soldiers in Azovstal. And it would be a huge embarrassment if 400 of them were foreign fighters and they were trotted out of the structure and put on video and exposed to the world. I think it would be really embarrassing, for example, for Macron, who's a week away from elections, to have a couple of hundred French fighters exposed as being stuck in this steel factory. A lot of people would be asking a lot of questions 400 it's not a small number. The Russian Ministry of Defense has actually come up with more numbers, and let me read them to you as to how many foreign mercenaries are actually fighting in this war. And the Russian Ministry of Defense, they call them foreign mercenaries. That's how they brand them. The collective West will say that they're contract soldiers or foreign fighters who volunteered to fight in Ukraine in order to fight for democracy and human rights. So depending on which side you're on, they'll be branded differently. So the Russian Ministry of Defense says that 6,824 foreign mercenaries from 63 countries came to Ukraine to fight for the Zelensky government. The Russian ministry also stated that of these men, 1,035 have been destroyed. Those are the words that they used, have been destroyed, while several thousand remain. 400 foreign fighters are holed up in Mariupol, along with Azov and AZI fighters and Ukraine military. Some of the breakdown as to where these foreign fighters are coming from, this is from the Russian Ministry of Defense. This is what they're saying. They're saying that 1,717 arrived from Poland, while another 1,500 came from the US, Canada, and Romania. Up to 300 people came from the UK and Georgia, while 193 arrived from the Turkish-controlled areas of Syria. So that gives you a number, as to a rough number, an idea how many foreign fighters are involved in this conflict, and 400 of them are going to get annihilated in this steel factory. Either by there are the rumors that the Russians are going to pump water into this factory, though I don't buy that. Maybe they will. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I think the more credible rumors are that the Russian military is just going to bomb this thing, like heavy, big time, massive bombs to just demolish the factory, the steel factory, and whoever is in it, which will also mean that we're not going to really understand what was the secret inside of Mariupol and inside Azovstal. You know, you've had 8 helicopters, 8 helicopter evacuation attempts. You've had a cargo ship try to evacuate whatever's in this factory. We're never going to really know, are we? That's going to be something that we're going to be always wondering about. What was in this factory where Macron called Putin numerous times, and you had all of these elaborate and crazy evacuation attempts take place. Desperate, panicky evacuation attempts. We'll see. Let's see how this unfolds. By the time this video goes up, maybe we'll have an understanding how the Russians are going to deal with this. But for now, as I'm filming this video, we still don't have any insight as to what Russia's going to do with Azovstal, with annihilating Azovstal, because I think it's clear that the Russians are going to demolish this thing one way or another. While we're on the subject of foreign fighters, let's talk about foreign weapons that are pouring in. We had in Odessa over the weekend, I believe it was the weekend, 2-3 days ago, where you had a massive cargo plane that was shot down trying to smuggle weapons in through Odessa. Russian air defense forces near Odessa shot down a Ukrainian military transport aircraft, delivering a large consignment of weapons supplied to Ukraine by Western countries. This is once again coming from the Russian MOD and various reports out of Russia. A cargo plane full of weapons. They tried to smuggle this into Odessa, and it was shot down. The usual route as to how weapons are coming in, we're starting to get more insight as to how they're coming in, and this is how you're getting weapons into Ukraine at the moment, and how they're being smuggled in. Is they're arriving in Poland, they're taken to this airport called Rzeszów, and I think I'm pronouncing that right, even though the writing for Rzeszów Airport is RZESZOW, but it's pronounced Rzeszów. And I hope I'm getting that correct. But it's coming into this airport, and this airport, from what I understand, is wide open. Anyone can go there and film and record. I mean, there's all kinds of film coming out of this facility, and it's not being hidden at all. And you can see all the delivery trucks and everything, like all the trucks, they're all there. And these weapons are going to Zeshao, and they're being smuggled across the border. And you have all kinds of weapons that are trying to get that are being poured in to Western Ukraine and trying to make their way towards the east of Ukraine. Of course, a lot of weapons are hitting the black market as well. But you're getting reports of 300 million small arm rounds being sent to Ukraine. You're getting howitzers trying to be smuggled into Ukraine. Now, they're coming from all kinds of countries in Europe and the collective West, which are just offloading, unloading all of their old stockpiles of weapons. They're just unloading everything into this airport in Poland, and it's like 40 miles. This airport's like 40 miles from the border of West Ukraine. And then they're trying to be smuggled across the border. Small ammunitions, some heavy weaponry as well. But the Russians are taking a lot of this stuff out. And not only are they taking this stuff out, but we're starting to get reports that the Russians are going to start to just take out bridges and railway links as well. And these weapons are being put into trucks, like regular, everyday trucks, they're just being driven right in. They use the word smuggling, but I don't even think you can say smuggling. I just think they're just being carted over the border. And yeah, I'm looking at some of the documentation here as to what's going on, and these weapons are just being driven in there, and the Russians are going to destroy bridges over the Dnieper. They're going to prevent these weapons from reaching the east. And the interesting part about this is that as the Russians start to take out bridges and infrastructure, it's almost like they're creating by default a de facto rump Ukraine state. It's like these weapons being poured in, and the Russians kind of severing all links from the west to east is going to create a type of de facto border. And all that's going to be left for Russia is to get control of Odessa in the south, create that bridge, that land bridge to Transnistria, and then effectively you're going to have a Ukraine in the west, a cut-off Ukraine in the west, which is going to have a border towards the east. All transportation, all links of transportation are going to be cut off, and they are effectively being cut off because the Russians are stopping any of the weapon supplies of reaching the east, and they're going to ramp this up in the next couple of weeks. So I thought that was fascinating, what's happening, and it's happening out in the open. What I'm reporting is not breaking news by any means. There are a lot of videos out there where you can see this airport in Poland, and they're making deliveries. But the Russians are on it, from what I understand. Obviously, a lot of weapons are making their way through. A lot, from what I understand. A certain amount of weapons are making their way through to the east. But the Russians understand what's happening. But from the Western side of things, this is going to be just such a huge deal for the military-industrial complex. I mean, it is going to be a business boom for them. And I'm always looking at things from the stock price side of things, because I understand that to create the weapons, to manufacture the weapons, to do the R&D is going to take time. But from the quarterly stock reports, the stock market side of things, it's just going to be a field day for investors in these MIC companies. War's a racket. That it is. Did everyone know that Turkey has an incursion into Iraq over the weekend? No one's reporting on this. Check this out. Ankara began a major cross-border military offensive targeting Kurdistan Workers' Parties, the PKK militants, in the northern part of Iraq, according to Turkey's defense ministry. This is coming from RT. The operation involves an extensive strike campaign using jets, helicopters, and drones, as well as a ground incursion by commando troops, according to the defense ministry. Ankara claims it successfully destroyed multiple bunkers, tunnels, and ammunition depots, as well as military headquarters of the PKK in northern Iraq's border areas of Metina, Zab, and Avashin Basyan, before its ground forces moved into the neighboring state. It is unclear how many troops and military hardware are involved. Our operation is continuing successfully as planned. The targets that were set for the first phase have been achieved, said Defense Minister Hulusi Akar to the Associated Press. Turkish forces are only targeting terrorists, taking extra precautions to avoid the loss of civilian lives and damage to cultural heritage, the minister said. Our struggle will continue until the last terrorist is neutralized. That's happening in Iraq right now. Delaware congressman in the United States, Chris Coons? Yeah, Chris Coons, who's an ally of Biden. He came out with a statement and said, it's time for American troops to go into Ukraine. This is what Coons said to CBS News. The American people cannot turn away from the tragedy in Ukraine. I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine, and that Putin will only stop when we stop him. When he was asked about, well, how do you stop Putin? Well, Coons' answer was American troops. If Vladimir Putin, who has shown us how brutal he can be, is allowed to just continue to massacre civilians, to commit war crimes throughout Ukraine without NATO, without the West coming more forcefully to his aid, I deeply worry that what's going to happen next is that we will see Ukraine turn into Syria, Coons said. So Chris Coons is talking about sending troops to Ukraine, escalating. He raised the idea of deploying American troops to fight Russians in Ukraine, saying he fears the former Soviet Republic will become the Syria of Eastern Europe. So Coons is being directed to float this out there. I mean, he's balloon testing it, right? On CBS News. That's all he's doing. He wants to see what the American public's reaction is going to be to this type of statement. And that's why he's going to CBS News, the deep state run CBS News, and he's coming up with a statement like this to see how will America react when I float out the idea of U.S. troops going to Ukraine. And they're going to do their A/B testing, and they're going to do their polling, and they're going to see, is this a winning talking point for the Biden administration? Because Coons is an ally of Sleepy Joe, Delaware representative. So, yeah. So everyone watching this in the U.S., I think you're going to get a lot more senators and congressmen kind of trying to balloon test American soldiers in Ukraine or NATO soldiers in Ukraine. This is going to start happening in the next couple of weeks because, well, Russia continues to win. That's just the bottom line. I mean, when you look at the state of Zelensky and you look at the state of the Ukraine military, there's with each passing day, there's just nothing left anymore. I mean, I'm getting reports saying that Ukraine they have no more fighters to draw on. They have no bench. Like if this was a sport, this was basketball, you would say that they've used all their players and they've gone into their entire bench and there's no one left to come off the bench and play. That's the analogy of what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, I showed videos. I showed a video on one of my videos of kids being sent to the front lines. I don't know if you guys remember that. I mean, these kids, they look like they were 16 years old. and they were being sent to the front lines. This is crazy. But without NATO involvement, yeah, there is no chance for Ukraine and Zelensky. And I've also said that Ukraine is being dissected as we speak. I've been one of the few channels that has talked about Kherson, and the fact that Kherson is floating out the idea of breaking away. I'm telling you, something is. Everyone talks about how far will Putin go? How far will he go? And I'm starting to think again. I'm starting to readjust my thinking. And given the fact that Russia is going to be taken out, a lot of the weapons that are coming from west to east, and a lot of the bridges and the transportation links are going to be severed, I wouldn't be surprised if the play is Odessa, Kharkiv, Odessa, and just create this rump Ukraine state without any access to the sea, completely dependent on the EU and Europe, full of weapons and NAZIs, and just let Europe deal with it. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm just, floating stuff out there. I mean, other people are saying Russia's going to take their time. There's going to be a long war, and they're going to go all the way to Lviv. I don't know, but anyway, should I do a clown world? Let's do a clown world. Let me go this way and we'll do a clown world. So this clown world was sent to me by someone on VKontact. VK sent me this clown world. And it has to do with a producer, someone who is working at Russia's Первый Canal, Channel 1 in Russia, Первый Canal. And when the war first started, she came out during a news broadcast and held up a sign. And the sign said no war and, anti-Kremlin stuff. And so the Russia state media, Первый Canal, Channel 1, they fired her, she left. I'm not sure exactly what happened. But anyway, she left. Let's say she was fired and left. And she made statements, very anti-Russian, anti-Putin, anti-Kremlin statements as well. And Germany, a German station, Welt, W-E-L-T, they decided to give her a job because they looked at her as a hero. She was a hero of free speech, and she was a hero because she stood up to the Putin regime. And so Welt gave her a job, and they were very proud of themselves. They were virtue signaling. They were super, super proud of themselves. And what you have now is you have protests outside of Welt TV from Ukrainians living in Germany who want her to be fired from the German station that gave her a job. And they gave her a job because she was anti-Kremlin, but now they want her to be fired from Welt TV because she's Russian. And they're saying, we don't care if she's anti-Putin, anti-Kremlin, it doesn't matter. Just the fact that you gave a Russian a job in your TV station means she has to be fired. And so you have like the Welt TV executives trying to calm the protesters outside of this TV station down, and they're trying to calm everybody down and say, look, she's a hero and she's on the right side of history, and they're making all of these statements. But the protesters want her out because she's Russian, and everyone knows that everything Russian in the collective West is canceled. It doesn't matter if you're pro-Putin, anti-Putin, pro-Russia, anti, not political at all, just apolitical, it doesn't matter. If you are Russian in the collective West, you have to be canceled. And that is what this TV executive, TV producer, that's what she's finding out. Her name is Marina, I forgot her name. Osikotvaya or something like that. Osikotnaya. Anyway, I'll probably put it in the text down below what her name is. But yeah, she's learning a very, I don't want to say a hard lesson, a very interesting lesson that she thought she was going to be treated as a hero in the collective West and in Germany for standing up to Putin. But I'm sure she never expected that when she got to Germany, she would also be canceled because of the simple fact that she is Russian. What a story. What a clown world story that is. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there, and I'll get a coffee, and I'll get this video up. And let's see how the day and the week unfolds. Take care, everybody. Oh, Alexander's channel, the Duran's channel, and the Duran.locals.com. Take care.